letting everyone join in the waiting room now. We're going to get started. Okay, my name is Mindy Miley. I'm the Associate Vice President for Enrollment and Engagement. I'd like to welcome everyone to our second webinar of the summer season. For those of you that joined us for our first webinar, we're glad to have you back for our second webinar. I hope that meant you enjoyed the first one so much that you wanted to come back for a second webinar with us. Our first webinar was about orientation. And now we're going to talk about a topic regarding academic advising and how that plays into the orientation. But before we get started, I want a couple of my colleagues to introduce themselves. So Stephanie, I'm going to let you go, and then our star of the show, Karen, will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Allwater. I'm the Director of Orientation here at the College of Charleston, and I'll be running the chat this evening. So if you have any questions or have anything, please throw it in the chat, and we'll try to give you some answers either online or through the presentation here.
And hello, everybody. I'm Karen Hauschild. I'm the Director of the Academic Advising and Planning Center. This is my 24th orientation as in the realm of academic advising, and my 12th or 13th at the College of Charleston.
So you're well versed in what happens.
I think I know a few things. Yeah. I think I could be helpful tonight. Yeah.
Stephanie and I actually work in New Student Programs, which is the office that runs the New Student and Family Orientation, and we've spent the last 20 years together working orientation programs, which is a lot of fun for us. Lots of things go on during orientation, and we're going to cover the advising piece. I do want to go just through a few housekeeping things. We have everybody on mute for now, and if you can make sure that continues throughout the presentation. We will take your questions in the chat. We also have some questions that we may address during the presentation that were sent ahead of time. So if you have questions, post them in the chat. We'll either talk about it in the presentation tonight, or we'll just answer you right through the chat. So follow along with that. We are recording the session, so if you loved it so much you want to see it again, you can do that, or send it to your friends. That's fine too. Or send it to your student. Maybe they'd like to watch it. And again, we'll hopefully answer all your questions tonight as far as advising. So advising does happen during your students' orientation. And since that's Karen's wheelhouse, I'm going to let her talk about all things advising, and we'll see how things go. Karen?
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Wonderful. Well, welcome, everyone. When your student gets to campus, they'll actually interact with our office 2 times, once on day 1 in the morning, and then again on day 2 and in the morning through early afternoon. So on day 1, we'll meet with your student, and that's when their advising session will actually occur. We've already communicated with your student, inviting them to participate in our OAKS advising module. So you might want to ask your student if they've gotten that email and have already interacted with some of the material in OAKS. I would strongly encourage them to take a peek. It'll definitely help their vocabulary. So we have information in there about academic advising, the degree audit system, the language of college, words that we use in college that may not be familiar to them, things along those lines. So I would encourage them to do that. But if they don't, it's okay. We're still gonna help them. But during the advising session, we're going to teach them about the general education requirements. We're going to teach them about the graduation requirements. And we're going to walk them through their degree audit system, which is called DegreeWorks at the College of Charleston. So we're going to have them log into DegreeWorks and take a look at the degree audit system and explain each of the gen eds. Now, if your student did dual enrollment in high school, did AP or IB work in high school, the AP and IB credits won't be in their audit until July. That's just how it works nationwide. All the scores from the senior year don't make it to colleges until July. So If your student took an AP or IB course in their junior year, when you have those scores sent from the senior year, you're going to want to specifically ask for the junior year scores to be sent also, because the College Board doesn't do that automatically. If your student did dual enrollment in high school, while those classes will be reflected on their high school transcript, that is not sufficient for the college to award them academic credit. So you will need to have your student have an official transcript from the institution that was providing the classes at that high school, and have those submitted for evaluation. So if that's done before they come for orientation, then that will already appear in their DegreeWorks audit, which is great. But if they haven't done that, then if they're at all familiar with what the courses are, we know how to work with that. We also know how to work with absent AP and IB scores. So that's not anything that you as a parent need to worry about. It's not anything that your student needs to worry about. The biggest thing that needs to happen is that your student needs to communicate that those things have happened, and we can work with that. And the process that we work through for the advising prompts them to tell us. So it's just important for them to listen in and follow along, and they'll be fine. So as you may have already heard, we've pre-enrolled freshman students into a variety of general education courses. Your student might have one, they may have two, depending on what the course was, and this is all based on their intended major. This is also important to note, is when your student registered for orientation, the orientation form asked them what their intended major was. That is not the declaration of a major, that just is an intention. So declaring is another matter altogether. Again, not difficult, but that sometimes students do get confused by that. So we use that information, orientation uses that information of their intended major to make decisions about how they're grouped together at orientation, and some things we do behind the scenes. But it also connects them to a meta major, which is a new effort on the college as far as our student success is concerned. And so students were pre-enrolled in one or more classes depending on their meta major and their intended major, and a variety of different factors. So when your student arrives into the registration room, they'll see that they're already registered for a class. Actually, they'll probably see that when they look at their degree audit system with us on their first day. Do they have to stay in that class? No, they don't. But we certainly would recommend it if they don't already have AP, IB, dual enrollment credit, because all of those classes fulfill one or more general education requirements. So it makes the registration process already moving forward for them, which is awesome. We've never done that before, and we're super excited. We think it's going to make life a lot easier for the students when they go into the registration, that they know they already have a class that's going to check a box as far as their gen ed is concerned. And in many cases, the course is also directly related to their intended major or a meta major piece. So anyway, on day 2, when we meet with them, that's when they will actually register for their fall semester courses. And to be a full-time student, you must be registered for 12 credit hours at the minimum. You don't have to be a full-time student, but if your student is from South Carolina and has the Life Scholarship, some of the other scholarships that are state supported, you need to be in at least 15 each semester for a total of 30 by the end of your first year in order to renew that scholarship. Although AP, IB, and dual enrollment credit does count toward that 30. But 15 is enough to keep them pleasantly busy. 12 usually isn't quite enough, but we also know that students are working and have other obligations. So there's no penalty for not being in 12 credit hours. They just need to be mindful if they have any of the state scholarships from South Carolina or any other kind of scholarship that that your student may have that is driven by a certain GPA or the number of credit hours they're enrolled in. That would be something that it would be important for them to communicate to their to the advisor as well. But we will be with them 100% of the way in the registration process, and then we will check their schedule to make sure that what they've registered for is appropriate based on the information they've shared with us, the information we already have, our conversation with them about their goals, intended major, and so on. Now, the one thing that's going to be important is that you as a parent and your student are open-minded, because classes start as early as 7:30 in the morning and go as late as 10 p.m. at night, that's a pretty big dynamic change from your typical a 9 to 3:30 or 7:30 to 2:30 or whatever your student's high school timing was. So sometimes students don't want to be in an 8 a.m. class. They don't want to be in a 4 p.m. class, but they're going to have to be open-minded to the times that classes are offered and the availability, because building a schedule is kind of like putting a puzzle together. So again, we'll be with them. We'll make sure that what they're registered for is appropriate. And if they don't like the time of a certain class, they have the rest of the summer and into the drop add period, which would be late August, to actually finalize their fall schedule. So yeah, I think I'll stop there and see what questions people might have, and we'll go forward from there.
Karen, I think you mentioned, well, one important thing that she mentioned was, among the many important things, was checking their email. And sometimes students find this to be difficult, but I would put their College of Charleston email on their phone, because they always have their phone. Checking that frequently, at least weekly during the summer, but daily once they get to be a current student, because our faculty will communicate with your student by email, their College of Charleston email. Also, other offices such as financial aid and the treasurer's office will also be communicating with your student, and a lot of that information is very time sensitive. So, and if your student says, hey, I haven't received any of this information about orientation or advising, a good question to ask is, have you ever checked your College of Charleston email? Because it's very likely that they have mail that could clear up any kind of confusion that they may have. So I did want to put that out there. Karen, you also go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just reading the chat while you were talking, so I can address some of those questions if you like.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so some of you have asked questions about your parents are transfer students, and yes, we work with transfer students too. Though that is a one-day process, and so it mirrors the two-day process, but just in one day. So we will meet with your student in the morning, and the content is largely the same. We're going to be reviewing the general education requirements, graduation requirements, and then in that case, we're going to verify that all of their transfer credit has been received and evaluated. So sometimes students come from just one institution, a previous institution, but there are other students that have been to multiple. And so maybe some of their transcripts, some of their transcripts from one institution have arrived and others have not. So we're going to, be in conversation with them to make sure that everything they think that they're getting credit for or are anticipating credit for has been received by the institution, has either already been evaluated or will be evaluated. And then they'll have a short break to do a little bit of homework, similar to what we asked the freshman students to do, to prep for the registration experience, and then they'll register for classes in the afternoon of that day. As far as the AP credit, someone asked about prior to senior year. Yes, you have to specifically ask the College Board. I don't know why. I think it's crazy if you ask for, I personally think if you ask for your scores to be sent, all the ones they have should be sent, but that's not what happens, which means you have to pay another fee and have another one sent. So when you have your student send their contact the College Board to have their scores sent, be sure they specify all the scores from all the years of high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. If you don't specify, they'll just send whatever the senior year, or if they took a junior year only, then that's what they would send. I can't answer why. I think it's crazy, but do parents stay for all of orientation? So Mindy, maybe you want to talk about what parents do while we're working with their students.
Well, so the family orientation runs parallel to the student orientation. So transfer students, as Karen mentioned, a one-day orientation. So the schedule is a little bit different, of course, for the transfer one-day program as it is for the two-day program. But I will tell you that in the first day one of the first morning, you will be separated from your student just temporarily, because Karen and her team will be talking to them about advising, and they'll also be with our orientation interns and meeting other new students. While they're doing that, I will be with you, the families, and we will be talking about all kind of fun things, about some conversations to have with your student during the summer. You'll also hear from Karen about advising a little bit more and some of our academic resources. We'll talk about some academic things involving our majors and campus safety. So you'll be with us until about noon, and then you'll come back together with your student, have some lunch, and then we have concurrent sessions that run in the afternoon. Some of those sessions you'll go with your students, others you'll go separately, and the schedule will indicate that. So we do have some generic orientation schedules on the orientation website. I'm sure Steph's going to post the orientation website, so you can kind of get a feel for what the schedule looks like for a day 1 or a day 2 orientation. When you check in for orientation, this will happen in Cougar Mall. So once you get parked, once you get out, you'll see a lot of activity on campus, and it's very likely you'll see signs. You'll see our interns. They'll have on College of Charleston gear, and I hope they look very peppy and happy as well, because it'll be probably like 7:30 in the morning, and they can lead you to the check-in area, which is in Cougar Mall, right in front of Maybank Hall. The campus is easy to navigate. If you're not familiar with the campus, we will be out and about helping you get to where you need to be. When you get to check in, we will give you and your student a schedule. Families, you'll get a schedule, and it'll have your location on there. Your student will also get a schedule. It'll be somewhat different than yours because it will indicate an advising and registration time on there. And it may not be the same time as their friend's schedule. So it is very important they follow their own orientation schedule. And you can ask some questions like, when's your advising appointment? Make sure that they've actually read the schedule and that they have it with them during both days of orientation, or they can take a picture of it on their phone, and that way they'll have it with them. So yes, as far as do you have to stay? Well, we're going to be entertaining you for 2 days if you're here for a 2-day program, or 1 day if it's a transfer. So there are things you can go to. The students' schedule is also very busy. So none of your sessions are mandatory, but we'd love to have you at all our sessions. Or you can enjoy Charleston and then come get your student. But there's plenty of things to do. All of the campus offices are open 8:30 to 5 during the summer. So if you do need to take care of things like speak to someone in financial aid, maybe I want to go view a particular area on campus, maybe I need to speak to somebody in the treasurer's office, that kind of thing. We're here. We're here all summer, 8:30 to 5, so you can check in with us. All right, what other advising questions do you see, Karen?
Well, I was just chatting, but I'll mention to everyone. Someone says, do transfer students need to send both high school and community college transcripts? And the answer for that is no. Transfer students don't have to send their official high school transcript because they've already taken college classes, and you can't get into college without a high school diploma. But it would be really helpful if you had the high school transcript, because we need that for math and foreign language placement in particular. So
real quick, Karen, sometimes they need to for financial aid purposes.
Oh, okay.
For especially South Carolina students for life, I believe. Financial aid will ask for the high school transcript.
Oh, well, for transfer students? Okay.
Yeah, so just a little note, just check with financial aid office. If my little memory serves me correctly, that is something that they need for that. So just wanted to mention that.
Great. I did not know that. And then the community college transcripts, yes. Any college for which they have received college credit, have that transcript, an official transcript sent to the College of Charleston. And that will go to our transfer evaluation team, and then they will evaluate it for credit here at the institution. And they're very quick about it. But please tell your students to request that a week or more in advance of their coming to orientation if they can. Like if they turn it, if we receive it the morning they have orientation, we may or may not be able to have it evaluated before we actually see them. So the sooner they can get it in, the better. Someone asked about major advisor. I think Stephanie chatted a little bit in there. So when your student declares their major, even if that's tomorrow, they'll be assigned a faculty advisor. But all first year students are advised by our department in their first 2 semesters. If they remain undeclared beyond their first 2 semesters, then they continue to be assigned an advisor in our department. So if your student declares their major tomorrow, they'll have someone in their department that will also be an additional resource. But as far as their mandatory advising requirement in the fall and spring semester, that will be in our department. Let's see. Can a student have more than 1 advising appointment? Yes, they can have as many as they want. So the minimum is once per semester. We require students to come in and meet with us. We start doing that as early September and continue on into December in the fall semester, and then usually early February into late April in the spring semester. But they can come in as often as our calendars allow. So we'll tell you this at orientation, and we tell the students this, and we remind them early and often. You know, we're there for them. We have drop-in services every day from 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We have a chat service. We have a texting service where they can text in a question. We have an email, and then of course email with their direct advisor as well. So there's lots of points of contact with a student. If your student double majors, again, in their first year, they're going to see us no matter what in their fall and spring semester, but that doesn't preclude them from also having conversations with their assigned faculty advisor in their department or departments. Or if they declare a minor, they'll also get a minor advisor. So it doesn't preclude them from meeting with them. But they, regardless of that, they'll still be mandated to meet with us. Let's see. And someone asked about honors. The honors and athlete, if you have a student athlete, athletes and honors are advised by those specific programs. If your student is an ARCH participant, they will be advised by our department in the Academic Advising and Planning Center. When do students find out about math, about class placement for math and language? They'll find that out on day 1 when we meet with them at orientation. It is in their degree work. So if you have a student that's super excited, they can look in their degree works, but it'll just be a number. So it won't really mean a whole lot to them, but it will mean it will make meaning when they meet with us and we explain what those numbers mean to them. So yes, someone just asked, my student noticed this number. How does this affect registration? It affects registration because placement is not credit. Placement is just telling us what their skill level is in that particular language or their proficiency in their level of math. And then it tells us based on that score what math course they're eligible to enroll in. And then that back up even further, then we have to look at what does the major require. Some majors don't have a specific math course that a student must take. All students have to take 2 math courses to fulfill the gen ed requirement, but some majors require specific ones. Like, so for example, if your student is pursuing a major in business, they require math 104, which is statistics. They also require a business calculus. And then there's more beyond that, but those are the 2 minimum. So depending on what your student's math score is or placement score is, they may or may not be eligible for those. And then they would have to take a lower level math that would prep them to move to another, which is why advising is so important. We're going to tell them all that stuff. We're going to unpack what those scores mean, what it means for them specifically, and tell them the steps they need to take if they meet or exceed, depending on what the situation is with the math placement. Foreign language is the same thing. Usually, well, not even usually, it's all the same for most of the Romance all the Romance languages. The only exception would be like Japanese or Chinese. We would probably need a placement score and they would have to go to the department and be assessed. But all the Romance languages, it's based on the number of years they took in high school. Or if they have AP, dual enrollment, transfer credit, then we use that as a guide too. Mhm.
Here, we had a question prior to this about gen ed requirements and what are they and how many are required and that kind. Can you speak to that a little
Sure.
bit?
Yes, so we have multiple general education requirements. Many would be familiar to you. So in the first year, there's only actually 2 classes that all students must take in their first year. English 110 or its equivalent, which is a 4 credit hour English writing across the curriculum course, and their first year experience class. So there's multiple ways that they can do that, but those are the only 2 they have to take. So if they don't get it in their fall semester, they take it in their spring. So they could take one in one in the next, or both at the same time. It varies depending on the student's schedule and what their desires are. Students have to take 2 semesters of history, 1 pre-modern, 1 modern. They have to take 2 math classes, 2 lab science class, natural science lab classes, both from the same discipline. So 2 biologies, 2 chemistries, 2 physics, 2 geologies, 2 astronomies. And again, those are driven often by what their intended major is. As you might imagine, a biology major, you've got to take a specific biology course. Whereas if you're a communication major, you could take biology, but you could also maybe take chemistry or physics or astronomy if you wanted to. You have to take 4 humanities courses, and those you can take 2 from the same discipline, but once you take a third, then that either starts falling into your free elective category, or you might be considering a minor in that area. You have to do 2 social science requirements. And then you have I want to make sure I haven't forgotten one. You have our new requirement, which is our race, equity, and inclusion. And so students have to do 1 in the US area, 1 in the global area. The nice thing about that particular requirement is that it easily double dips into the humanities and social science categories, among others. So for example, we have a geology course, a geology 104, that's going to count as an REI requirement. So if the student wants to take geology, they could do that, and they fill 2 requirements with the 1 singular course. And then we also have a founding documents requirement, and that is from a selection of courses that's based on the founding documents of the United States of America. And again, another great opportunity for students to double dip through history classes, political science classes, and things along those lines. I think that's it. I don't think I've missed. Oh, foreign language. Oh gosh, we're just talking about yeah. Hello, foreign language. You have to complete through the 202 level, which is an intermediate level. So if your student wants to continue in their high school language, then we're going to look at what they took in high school, what their placement score is, and then make a recommendation. And for most students, Spanish is a good example. Most students will place into Spanish 190 based on what they did in high school, which would mean that they would take 3 semesters of Spanish. But they may say, I didn't like Spanish. I want to learn Hebrew or Arabic or German or Italian. We have 13 different languages, and they're all available for all students. So if your student wants to start an entirely new language, they absolutely can do that. That would mean 4 semesters, starting with 101 and then moving through to the 202 level and beyond if they get really excited about it and decide they want to do more. So we definitely recommend students start that earlier rather than later, because you get a little rusty if you stay away from it for too long. And if you were going to start a new language, you're talking about 2 years worth of work, fall, spring. So we don't want them waiting till their, second semester of their junior year. They might be running out of time. So yeah, I think I got them all, Mindy.
Okay. And so there's a lot of questions about orientation and what's happening, which is always exciting for us to hear. Some of the things I do want to mention that your students will want to take care of before they get to orientation, and one of those would be to submit their health forms. And I'm sure that Stephanie will put that in the chat, but we do need that information before they come to orientation. It's done online. The website's very good. It has a link on how to submit those forms. It has their vaccinations and such. But we do need that. And it is required for them, especially if they're living in our residence halls. They only have to do it one time as a new student. Once we have them, they won't have to do that again. So I wanted to mention that. Karen's already mentioned the importance of having our transcripts. Also, and I'm sure Stephanie will put this in the chat as well. We do ask that your students submit a picture for their Cougar card. And Cougar card is the name of their ID card. And if they do that before they come to orientation, that way we will have their ID card ready when they check in for orientation. And it's really a big deal when they get their ID card. And they're going to want to take a selfie. You know, they're going to have their ID card up so you guys can take pictures with it. It's my college ID card, and it's a big deal. So do make sure, and your students getting emails about this, but do nudge them. It has examples on what type of pictures are appropriate for the ID card. You know, they can't wear their shades and things like that. So that's something we'd also like you to nudge your student to handle before they get here. There's a lot of information about a new student checklist. And I keep referring to Stephanie to put these links in the chat. But if you're on the orientation website, and really on our website, if you go to the College of Charleston's main page, you'll see a search button in the top right. You can pretty much put in like Academic Advising and Planning Center and get to Karen's office. New Student Programs is the name of our office, and we handle orientation, but you'll also find information about a new student checklist. These are like all the things your new student needs to do. So that may be helpful to you. So check out our website. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have the generic orientation schedules up there as well. One other thing I wanted to mention is the academic calendar. And you know I'm going to ask Stephanie to put the link in the chat. But the academic calendar is found on the Office of the Registrar's webpage. So there is an academic calendar for each semester. The one for fall, of course, is already posted. So if you're making plans as far as fall break, that kind of thing, or when classes begin, you can check out the academic calendar and plan from there. And it's always posted on the registrar's webpage. So that's something you also might find helpful. There were some questions also in the chat about the paying the bill, the treasurer's office, that kind of thing. Again, you can search from our main page for the treasurer. And if you go to their page, it has a lot of information there too. It has information about the billing schedule, which is always important. It also has information about you as a parent becoming an authorized user. And what that means is you would get an email with the student semester bill. Your student's going to get that email as well, but some parents want to get that email also. Some parents don't want to get that email, and that's fine. That's fine too. But if you want to get that email, sign up to be an authorized user. It's on the treasurer's office website. And that way you'll be in the know as far as what the bill is and when that's due. Of course, your students, they don't have a full bill yet because they have not registered for their classes. So right now, you don't need to pay anybody, and that's good. But the treasurer's office website will give you information. It also has a payment plan as well. So you may want to check out the treasurer's office website for that. And then one final thing I want to mention, I'm going to let Karen address it, but I'm going to mention it. Do we want to talk about proxy access and FERPA, just briefly? Because we're going to cover it at orientation, but I know you want to get a plug in.
Yes, of course, of course. So you all are probably very familiar with having intimate details about your students' academic performance, whether they passed a test, turned in their homework, attended class, and so on. So once they've crossed the threshold and become registered students of the College of Charleston and classes begin, that is no longer applicable to you. We are bound by a federal law called an act called FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. And so that means that you are now a third party. And so you will have to provide, your student will have to provide us permission to have academic conversations with you about the details of their academic performance. So there's ways to do that, and I'll just leave you with that, because I'll have to talk to you. I'll meet you on the morning of day one, and we'll talk about all the details of FERPA and how you can go about doing that. But and there's even better ways than the paperwork that's involved in the FERPA process. But in addition to that, and probably even easier for you as a parent, is to ask your student to give you proxy access. And what that means is that your student can go online and onto the registrar's website under the proxy access area, and they can give you access to the things that most parents care about, like what's the schedule, what are your grades, what's the emergency contact information, what are the financial aid information, things along those lines. There's a laundry list of things, and your student can check off one of those things, or they can check off all of those things. But then they give you permission, you set up your own account, and then you can log in and out to your heart's desire and take a look at all of those things. So I would strongly encourage you all to take a look at that before you come. But if you don't, I'll be talking about proxy access as well on the morning of day one with my colleague in the Center for Student Learning. So we'll get you all up to speed on that.
Yes, and you can't really sign up for proxy access yet until you're registered for classes.
That's true. That's right.
Don't crash the website trying to get.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Let your student register for classes, and then you guys have a discussion about how you're going to communicate about grades and expectations and that kind of thing. And then your student can sign you up to get proxy access, and it'll all be good. Karen, there was a mention of just about virtual classes. Any comments on online options?
Yes. So the College of Charleston does offer some online classes, and what that looks like is a couple of different things. It could be 100% online, which means all the lectures are recorded, all the communication is electronic. There's no in-person or even virtual meeting. So those online courses are really designed for the very self-directed student who is a great time manager. The other option is a synchronous online course. I'm sorry, that is the synchronous. Asynchronous, so that you might have part of the class being in person and the other part of the class being online. So sometimes classes that are larger, maybe 100 people, I mean, that's not frequent. The whole class might meet in person, and then for the other 2 or 3 hours of the week, they might have smaller group sessions online, or vice versa. So that is not the majority of the classes that are out there. In the summertime, the majority of our classes are online because that's what the demand is, because students are everywhere. But during the traditional calendar year, fall, spring, most of the classes are in person. So if your student does want an online experience for whatever reason, they certainly can attempt to do that. They may or may not be able to get 12 or 15 credit hours, and I'm not sure I would necessarily recommend that unless I knew more about the student's particular story and what. But we found, especially since COVID, that most students want in-person classes, and so that's what you'll see for the most part. But there are online options.
Thank you, Karen. Now, speaking of information and sharing information with parents, I'm glad that you guys joined us tonight and are eager to learn more about the College of Charleston and the resources that we have available. Also, I want to let you know about the CFC Parent and Family Experience. That is the name of our platform we use to communicate with parents. And I'm getting ready to put this in the, or actually I think, put this in the chat. Now, if you've signed up for orientation, I had your email. It's likely that you are already subscribed to the portal, the platform, which is great. But there is an orientation community, which we've put most of you in. and it has a lot of information about orientation, locations, deadlines, opportunities. So that is where we're going to post information. But the platform is not just for orientation. It also has information about all kind of different topics based on your interest. And of course, you can be subscribed to this as long as your student is involved with the College of Charleston and beyond and graduates from the College of Charleston. So I encourage you to use the platform to get information. I did post a link to sign up. As I said, if you're getting email newsletters in your email, you're already subscribed. If you're totally not sure if you're subscribed or not, or just want me to check, I put parents at cofc.edu. That is our email address. It comes to Stephanie and myself. It's parents at COFC, that stands for College of Charleston, .edu. That email comes to us, and I can check and see if you're subscribed to our the CFC Parent and Family Experience, or we can answer any other questions about orientation, or perhaps we didn't get to a question this evening and you want to follow up on that. You can certainly reach us there, or maybe you want to ask Karen some more questions about advising and that kind of thing. You can certainly, we can give you contact information for the Academic Advising and Planning Center as well. I think we're about up with our time. But again, I do appreciate you joining us tonight. We will be with you all summer. I mean, we're here as a resource for our families, and your experience is important to us. If we meet you this summer, we can't wait to meet you this summer. Our first orientation is on Monday. And for us, it's like Christmas morning every day. I mean, you know, this is our favorite time of the year. So we hope to meet you at orientation. And I think if you're coming to orientation, you'll feel a lot more knowledgeable about things, and your student will be so shocked that you just seem to know everything before they do. You know, making them crazy, which is what we love. So again, I hope to meet you at orientation. If you're not able to come to orientation, you have resources available to you. Our staff is available to assist. As I mentioned, the platform is a good resource for you to also get information as well. But I think that about wraps it up. We're like 1 minute ahead of time. Karen and Stephanie, any final things you'd like to mention?
I just want to say we really look forward to meeting you this summer, especially your students. No, not all the families can come, but these webinars and information we'll share. Anything you come back and you're like, my student did not explain this right, please feel free to email us. People will say, oh, I don't want to bother you. And I'm like, no, this is what we're supposed to be bothered. Great last question. Want to cover this one. We are going to take this video. I'll get it in about an hour. We're going to put it on our YouTube site. We're going to put it on our resources part of our website. And I'm going to email every parent email I have that signed up for orientation, the student is signed up for orientation, all the parent emails I have, and give you this link again. So you will be able to access this. I'll take the chat that we had, download that. It's messy. It looks really messy as we chat away, but you can review it if there's something that you said, what did she say, or what was that office, or things like that. So, someone's asking about what question asks about proxy access, talks about that. Well, Karen, yep, she answered there. She goes, it's her. You're going to see all of our smiling faces. You might even see mine as you walk in right away by the Cougar statue, if that's what I'm doing that day. So they'll talk all about it. You can go to the registrar's office if you have further questions. There's great info on their website. So definitely check that out. So so excited to have you here this summer. Have your student with us for the next 4 years.
Yes, I echo the sentiment. We've been working really hard to be ready for your students when they get here, and you can trust us with them. We're going to make sure that they make good decisions about the courses that they want to enroll in and make sure that they understand. I know it's a lot. There's a lot of information, and they're trying to get context and make good decisions and make friends and do all these things. And so, you know, as a parent, just take a deep breath, tell them to take a deep breath, we, their best interest is also our best interest. So have fun at orientation, just go get a Starbucks.
And
You know,
enjoy our
it-
wonderful orientation interns. They are going to be great
Yeah.
resources. There are great students. Mindy's going to talk a little more about breathing. I'll give a little hints there, a little prequel to what you're going to hear, and meet our wonderful intern team. I've got a whole office full of kids right now packing folders and doing stuff and getting ready to be here. So great to meet our 20 students and have a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to it.
Yes, we are. And we have some great students and team working, and they are ready to welcome you to campus. So be ready for a fun summer, and we're all going to get through this together. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our next webinar is actually August the 5th. Is that right, Steph? At 6:30. We'll be talking about move-in. I know, you can't wait. Charleston in August. It's a blast. Move-in. And the first week of class and things that go on at the beginning of the semester. So I hope you'll join us again in August for our next webinar. And if I see you this summer before August and you're like, you should do a webinar about this, tell me. You'll see me that morning if you're here at orientation. So give me your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much, you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.